Comrades, this is Chief Garter Republic Radio Show with your co-hosts, Mike Tuman and Paul Burvid, coming to you every Saturday, noon until 1. Of course, there may be some times when Sox games ain't playing that we will be noon until 2. All right, if you're going to call in at our call-in number, 847-931-1410, please do so before 12:30, where we will be superseded, except for the YouTube channel. The broadcast will be superseded for the Sox game. So call in before 12:30 or a little bit before 12:30 so we could get your question in there and answered. Otherwise, it'll wait until it goes on to, it'll continue on to YouTube. The text number here is 505-926-1410. You could also hit us up in the chat in the YouTube live channel on WRMN YouTube channel. You can find those links at WRMN1410.com. All right, so Paul, how you doing this week?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, but I got motivated and aggravated, and I got the high blood, and my blood was boiling and everything, just because thinking about everything. So about what happened with the Signal chat, and I don't know if anyone's overly familiar with that, but that is, you know how you have text on your phone and you send group texts and everything? Well, the Signal is an app that doesn't use text, that travels through the internet, and supposedly it's secure, so it can't be hacked. So if you don't want the feds dumping your phone and getting all your text from your phone provider, Signal can hide that. And I'm not saying to use it for nefarious means.
Well, there's something, and it's hitting on some of the cable stations now. It's quite concerning. It turns out that Signal is a non-for-profit. It's a 501c3. Whoa. It's actually the Signal Foundation, okay? And it's run by a guy. Now dig this. The dude's name is Moxie Marlinspike.
If that is his real name.
No, his real name is Matthew Rosenfeld.
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah, okay.
Okay, and what's really disturbing to me is, here's old Matt here. Matt is an avowed anarchist. Now, why we would let this happen, he's got some articles published in the Anarchist Library, and, like they tell you, you can't believe everything on Wikipedia. And I would agree with that, except there's another big problem. You see, the woman that was in charge of Wikipedia was as a young lady by the name of Catherine Maher. You might remember her this week for being in front of Congress talking about NPR. Well, Catherine Maher also was a supervisor at Signal. And she was Catherine is the former CEO and executive of Wikipedia Media. But you know what's interesting? She's a senior fellow at the Atlantic Council, think tanks here, where her work focused on intersection of technology, human rights, and democracy. And prior to Wikipedia, she was the director of advocacy for the digital rights organization Access Now, and she's got she's one of the security fellows at the Truman National Security Project, and she's in charge of the Digital Public Library of America, and she was a trustee at the American University of Beirut. And she's got her bachelor's degree from the New York University's College of Study of Arabic Languages. So, when you dig into this is like a spy novel waiting to happen, because whoever let this thing out and out of the bag and allowed to be used and unregulated is really causing us some problems.
Okay, so that's where my rant gets in. Here's the thing, right? So for the last 12 years, before January 21st, the Fourth Estate has completely disappeared and been absorbed into one of the political parties. All right, would you agree that that's true? for the most
It would be,
part.
if not absorbed into the party, absorbed into the ideologies of the party.
Yeah, they absorbed that ideology. So there was really no one looking out for stuff like this, which we have a thing. And I went on this rant last week about the FBI being our main counterintelligence service, and we have counterintelligence in the military also. So Department of Defense and DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency, they all have counterintelligence offices. And what I say about counterintelligence is they like those spy games, James Bond and stuff, and let's catch the enemy spies. That's the sexy stuff. You know, ooh, I'm going to put on a suit. I'm going to have a couple martinis. I'm going to smoke 60 cigarettes a day. I'm going to gamble. I'm going to gamble with not my money, the government's money. I'm just going to be, 007, 007, a double odd agent. And probably their main job where they can get the biggest bang for the buck and do the most for the government is dumpster diving, all right? And the thing is, every country, even our closest allies are spying on us. Every one of them. That's a given. I want someone to prove me wrong, right? Prove me wrong. Every country is going to have some sort of espionage directed against us to collect intelligence, all right? And the worst thing we could do to them is not to give it away free. We give it away free. They don't have to do anything. We give it away free. And that's what the counterintelligence agent's main job is to prevent us from giving it away free. But that's not sexy anymore. Now you become a blue falcon. The military knows what that is, and, they don't like that, all right? They don't want to be the bad guy here. They want to be the good guy. Let's go catch a foreign spy. Let's not catch some guy that's accidentally doing something. Now, the signal thing isn't going on. So I got to say that this Jeffrey Goldberg, all right? Jeffrey Goldberg has actually re-entered the fourth estate. And you're going to see a lot of that now because they are against. Right? So any little thing that wouldn't have even been brought up before, it wouldn't matter. They say, so what? So what? They weren't talking about that. Now it's like, oh my God, it's war plans. It's our entire war plan he gave out. It's not. It wasn't. But was it poor judgment to be talking anything on Signal? Yes, it's poor judgment. And here's the worst thing. The worst thing that really gets me angry, all right? I hope people don't hear, have to turn down the volume or whatever, is that the guys doing it right now, that Pete Hegseth, Mike Walls, and everyone else in there, they're high up guys. And they should have been briefed by FBI counterintelligence guys, by DIA counterintelligence guys, by NSA counterintelligence guys. All these guys should have briefed them on this stuff, right? Cyber Command, they should have just briefed them, say, hey, don't use it. The trouble is the U.S. government... The U.S. government pays lots of money, billions of dollars for technology for secure communication. So we had the BlackBerries. The reason BlackBerry stock was so high because the government was buying a lot of BlackBerries because they could be secured communication. So let me turn this off. It's my phone. So they spend all this money, but the stuff isn't user-friendly. It's a big pain in the butt. I've been on the inside with that. It's a giant pain in the butt. To get to the secure thing, to have the secure, to have secure stuff that the government pays for, it's hard to use, it's difficult to use, it's not user-friendly, and the people that are supposed to service it are non-responsive. Yeah, we'll give you service. Okay, I got 1,000 people with problems, and I have one person answering the helpline. So these are the people high up that they should say, okay, we're going to make it work now. So now you get in with the non-responsive contractors and say, hey, you're non-responsive. You lost your contract. We're not paying you. We're not going to pay you anything we owe you. We'll go with a responsive contractor that's going to help us with this stuff. The little guy on the bottom that's waiting hours online hours on a hold on a phone or whatever, or waiting on chat or sending an email that never gets responded to, they can't do anything. But the guys up at the top, yeah, they should be doing something. Now this all comes out because of good old Jeffrey Goldberg there and makes a big deal out of it. Maybe things will get fixed. This is not a problem that has existed just this week. This has been going on for years, ever since the cell phones were invented. Case in point, all right? At the Pentagon. Pentagon's secure. You know, pretty much there's some common areas there that they have the public, and when the public goes through and gets a tour, they always have the nice young Marines in their dress uniforms guiding them and telling them about everything. And I really suggest anyone that goes to D.C., if you get a chance to take that tour of the Pentagon, it is worth it. It's good. It's like a museum. But then if you want to get in there like I did, I'd have to go there for meetings. I had to register my card, and I had to wait and get everything. And then I'm pretty much free to go almost anywhere that you didn't have to press a button to get in, because there are other places limited access. People were carrying their cell phones around, even though the ringers were shut off, they were still pinging inside of there. Then people were carrying Fitbits that stored information, location information, and when they got, even if they didn't have their cell phone, when they got back to their cell phone, the Fitbit communicated and put it in there, and guess what happened? The entire Pentagon got mapped. The entire Pentagon got mapped. By who? Foreign adversaries? No. Us. So after it's all mapped, after the horses are out of the barn, up, here they come, let's close the doors. Now you can't bring your cell phone here, you can't bring your cell phone there. They tell you can't have any electronic. They should have done this long before, right? But higher ranking people would be inconvenienced. And you can't have that. Then you can't have special exceptions either, so they just didn't care. And now it's come to the front light. It should be fixed. It should get in there and get back to the counterintelligence job of keeping us from giving it away for free. Actually make our adversaries and our allies work for the information. Do you understand what I'm getting at, Paul?
I do.
Yeah, I mean, if the boss doesn't do anything about it, nothing's going to happen.
Well, it reminds you of going back to new times. During World War II, in the Pacific particularly, we used to, call in things on walkie-talkies and communications. But what do? We use Navajo code talkers. And we had Navajo code talkers who had their own language, and they had a tank was a turtle, and then they put down turtle, and then the guy on the other end would say, the tanks are over here. So that's what, it's almost like it doesn't matter if it's encrypted, not encrypted. It needs to be scrambled at the other end, and like a key, and maybe it changes every day, like a modern day Enigma. Every day we turn the wheel, and it does it electronically. And, it's a random access generator in some way, so that none of this stuff really matters anymore.
See, we have that. We have secure communication devices. We have them. They are there, right? There are secure BlackBerries that can't be hacked, all right, or supposedly can't be hacked, that are encrypted point to point, and the encryptions change. We have secure computer lines. We have the Stu 3 telephone that scrambles so you could use a telephone line. But really, the only true secure method of communication is if I whisper it into your ear and no one else is around to hear it. Face to face, one-on-one, that's secure. Anything else can be hacked. Going back, this is really going back in the day when computers first came out and they said, well, we'll have a closed system. And everyone remembers, what was the first little guy, Mission Impossible with
Mr. Phelps?
No, the little guy, the Christian Scientist, or not Christian Scientist. That's wrong. I'm sorry. He's a space thing. God, I can't remember his name. Risky Business. The guy from Risky Business, right? Tom Cruise. So the little guy, Tom Cruise. Everyone should know who you're talking about when you talk about Tom Cruise. Right?
I'm thinking of the Mission Impossible from TV.
Yeah, this is the movies, right? And the first one, they had to break into the super secret spy agency's closed system, right? It's a closed system. It doesn't hook up to the internet. All the data's there. You can't get it out because it's a closed system unless you actually get to the one point that has an active USB port or whatever, and you could do it. So a guy said, well, I don't care if it's a closed system. I could get stuff off their computers without even hooking up to them. And they're like, no, it's impossible. It's impossible. He says, watch, I'm going to feed in this one program into the computer, and it's going to get me all the information out of the computer wirelessly without sending out a radio signal. No Bluetooth, no infrared, no light signal or anything.
Microwave, nothing.
No microwave, none of that, right? He used the fans, the cooling fans on the computers to turn them on and off in sort of like a on-off 101010 digital code. It took a while, but there was a listening device, an audio listening device that was listening for those fans to turn on and off. And it would interpret the code. It took a while, so there is, even on a closed system, you get that information out. Back in the day, we were burning typewriter ribbons because if you threw out a typewriter ribbon, all it took was a spy to unroll it and say every letter that you typed to make it out.
It's a famous Columbo episode. Yeah. He proved the guy wrote a letter on the guy that killed him by taking it was the carbonless ribbon though, but they unrolled it and it had the whole detailed letter in there. Yeah.
Yeah. So, there's keystrokes. The length of time it takes Underwood or a Royal typewriter, manual typewriter, that key to travel is different for every single letter. So when a typist is hitting it, they could tell by this difference, right? So it's very hard if someone's really going actively at it, right? Actively attacking this stuff and trying to get that information. There are ways to do it. But they should have to work that hard. And what happens is when you find a gap, that's what counterintelligence is trying to do. Find the gaps in our protection for our intelligence. So when they find something like that, they go, oh, well, we gotta use soundless stuff now, so they can't use the fans going on and off, all right? Or we got to make sure we sweep for listening devices. And all listening devices, a carbon microphone. It's a passive charge. It creates its own charge, right? So we don't have people plugging these holes anymore because there's no caring about it. No one cares. But now, thanks to Jeffrey Goldberg, people care. I've always cared. But again, I'm the little guy telling them this is stupid. You can't do that. You can't do that. And they're like, who's he? He's not wearing stars on his shoulder. Okay. I'm telling you, this has been going on forever. Now, the Signal app, all right, so they're a non-for-profit and everything. Getting into a little more, right? Last minute. Phishing, all right? That's going to be a big problem here, right? You got 5 minutes. I'm not talking about going down to Lake Michigan and casting the line in for Coho. I'm talking about people sending you emails, apps, everything else that is collecting your information. And even people you would consider the smartest people don't realize that their phone is basically collecting intelligence on them. Now, when you have 380 million phones collecting all this, everyone says, well, there's too much information to really pinpoint on people, like who's this and everything. But there's not too much information for artificial intelligence. You tell them to look for one thing, and it's going to go through all that data until it finds that one thing. It's going to extrapolate information. There is where Signal becomes, all these apps become problems. In itself, all right, I could have innocent conversations not relating to anything, but in itself, it's still tracking me. It's tracking my habits. It's tracking who I have these Signal app conversations with. It's putting together, the computer and artificial intelligence is putting together a massive link matrix diagram. So if they want to get at me, they know who my friends are. Would you agree with that?
I would.
And you can't walk away from this technology either. You know, you go off the grid completely. You know, not talk to anyone, become a hermit, which isn't a bad way of life. A lot of the saints were hermits. I could see why, right? But just be aware that they are collecting the information, and don't give it to them for free. Don't give them stuff for free. Like, oh, you're on Facebook and if someone posts, you know, your birth month is whatever stone is your birth month. What's your birth month stone, you know? And then people put it in, and now they got your month of birth, or possibly, maybe 9 out of 10 times you tell the truth, and one time you don't tell the truth or whatever. But they take that information, they build the database, and then they extrapolate stuff. So they go, the first three letters of your last name, you know, mean what sort of Viking you would be. You know, you see all these things come out, and people put that in, and then boom, boom, you know, that information is stored. What's your favorite? Who? I like it. Which car did you learn how to drive on? Right. That's one that comes out. What's one of the questions? One of the security questions they always ask you.
What was your first car?
That's right. So probably for one you learned how to drive on. Your parents handed it down to you. You know, you're like, okay. So now they got a possible thing. In my book here, you know, Bot Madam, I married a Bot Madam, the artificial intelligence machine learning program friend, Zoya, the protagonist, she says, hey, you know, my artificial intelligence can sledgehammer any password. And that's just a matter of guessing, just like they do when you're data mining for cryptocurrency. It's a matter of guessing the answer to this blockchain. Who could guess it the fastest? Well, that's what the artificial intelligence does, but then it can also go and fish for that information. All right? And now when it comes to bigwigs, it's funny because they call that whaling. So if they're going after all the little privates working in the skiff or working in personnel, right? When they start going after the generals, it's going up for fishing, it goes to whaling, right? And sometimes they don't even go after the general himself with that, but they know who his family is. So they start sending his wife these messages, right? Like even like fake, how many times have you got on your email like these fake messages like, oh, your email account's been locked, you know? Please log in here with your password, with your username and password so we can unlock your email. And it doesn't even go to that. All right, so when we get back, we're going to go going directly to just to YouTube. We won't be on the radio anymore, unfortunately, and we will be on the radio next week, but we're going to be superseded by the Sox game. But we will complete this the hour on YouTube. They're doing dumpster diving, and they're doing assessments and everything to make sure that we're just not giving the intelligence away. Then you got the adversaries coming in, and maybe they target me, or maybe they target my boss that says, hey, listen, you're doing too good of a job. Why don't you take a break? Right? And then suddenly all the information's being given away free again. Right? So we had, what are these? The FBI agents. I could probably go further into the military guys too. But one of the main ones, Robert Hansen, what was he in charge of? He was an analyst. He was in charge of counterintelligence.
Oh, okay.
He was the highest ranking FBI counterintelligence guy, the man for counterintelligence. All right. So he's supposed to be keeping all of us from giving away stuff free and having the enemy come get our stuff. And he was on the payroll of Russia, the Soviet Union. He was on the Soviet Union's payroll. So do you think he was doing his job very well, catching Russian spies? No.
He knew them. He knew who they were.
He did.
Yeah.
And then you got
he knew who they were.
Yeah. Then you got Charles McGonigal, right? And he was chief of counterintelligence. And then you got even earlier, this Lutisik guy who he was, all right, he was another counterintelligence guy. So these are all FBI guys that are supposed to be looking for spies. So why target a little guy that can only get a little information, right? When you could target a big guy and just tell him turn a blind eye. You know, it's like the fox coming up to the roosters, right? And saying, here's some extra chicken feed for you, and here's a really hot looking 10, you know, that you could have your way with all the time. Just let me go into the chicken coop for a couple hours. You know? Oh, how did that happen? We had a big rooster to protect it. Right, so when you with this Signal app, yes. What did Khrushchev say? This is great. You know, good old Soviet Khrushchev. All right. I would have to say he was probably one of the best Soviet leaders they had, and for the reason being that he was really trying to de-Sovietize the Soviet Union slowly. But he said, we will sell you the rope with which you'll hang yourselves. All right? So you got this guy, and he sells Signal to these people that get so used to using it, and the big level, oh, let's use Signal here, let's use Signal there. And now he's in, right? He sold us the rope with which we're hanging ourselves.
Well, it's the crackberry. We'll give you a taste for free, and you use it, and then now you're compromised, all of you.
Well, it's not just it's not just the compromisation, right? It's the fact that there's an alternative out there. The Department of Defense does have secure alternatives. They exist. They absolutely exist, right? They're just a pain in the ass to use. So they got so used to using the easy stuff. Signal's easy. That's why it makes money, because it's made for an average person, all right? It's made for its ease of use. Even my mother could use it. She's not very techie, right? She's really super intelligent on some things, but she's not very techie, right? So they make it easy for non-techie people to use, whereas the military, on the other hand, make it the biggest pain in the butt to use, you know? So what are you going to, if you want to chat with your high-level friends that have all used Signal before and never had a problem, well, you know, what's the harm? Who can know? It can't be tracked. It can't be anything. Unless you got a guy on the inside. Honestly, if that guy wasn't on the inside, they'd still be using Signal today, which is wrong. And thank God he came out and said, hey, they're using Signal. This is stupid. Not, oh, they're giving away war plans. Okay, that's a lot of hyperbole there. But the point got across to me instantly. Everyone else is seeing it as, oh, giving away intelligence and war plans. The point I got was these guys shouldn't have even been using the app. They should have been using the stuff that they had available to them. And if it didn't work.
There's another thought about this, though, and it's developing. You know, when we were in government, you can't get rid of anything. You have to actually file a certificate to destroy information, and you have to hold on to information.
Yeah, that's what I forget.
Official Records Act.
Official Records Act, yeah.
All right, and there's a thought that they didn't want this stuff anywhere written down, so they didn't have to turn it over. So in their immediate thought of being able to have these meetings and not be able to have to disclose it to anyone, and rely on quote faulty memories, that they went into this app, and then there's a thought that maybe something intentionally happened so that it did get out, so that this could embarrass them in what they were doing and create a scandal.
Yes, they created a scandal, absolutely. And you think they should, because this stuff should be really stomped on right away. Absolutely. But let me remind you, it's been going on for years, 12 years under the other regime, and this didn't change. This didn't come up now. How long has Signal been around?
I don't know, but I've heard guys on YouTube channels say they've been using Signal in the military to change meetings and stuff like that for years.
Do you know what they use it for? You know what? The company commander has his lieutenants and his platoon sergeants, and this is company like 200 infantry guys, or maybe a transportation company and everything. And he'll go out and he'll say like, yeah, PT's changed from 5 a.m. We're going to do it at 6 a.m. Right? And he sends it out, or we're going to have a picnic at so-and-so, right? And they put it out because your soldiers, your soldiers, your down-to-earth soldiers, and not a lot of your junior leaders, sergeants, and everything, they don't have crackberries. They don't have the BlackBerry. They don't have the secure phone. They don't even have computers with internet access. Some of them just got their phone. So in order to get your military email, you have to use a smart card. All right. So your CAC, your common access card, it's got a little chip in it that has certificates and encryption in there, so you can check into your military email, right, and get the military stuff. Well, they don't have that, all right? They have a phone. And here's the thing with that, too. People, believe it or not, people still prepay for their phones, so they still have limited minutes, and they still have limited texts, right? But the Signal app doesn't use a text. It uses internet, and you can hook into Wi-Fi so you're not using whatever internet. And they just say, hey, so everyone's got Signal. Everyone in the company signs into the Signal. The commander sends out a blast, right, for that. These are low-level guys, all right? And this is low-level stuff, all right? If he's in combat now, let's say, goes over and he's got his company in combat, and he goes on to Signal, and he says the guys do this, right? When he's got Blue Force track, there's a different. I'm dating myself. We used to use Blue Force Tracker, and that would go out to things that's satellite encrypted up and down. Like I said, we have the communications equipment to direct the battle. If he's using Signal for that, then he's wrong, and he should have that basic knowledge. But a lot of them don't. You're right. That's why we have to go through. The military goes through this yearly training for cyber awareness training. And it used to be the funniest thing, because there were these pixelated, almost like what was the I Want My MTV song that had the two furniture movers in it, and that's the way the graphics looked, very blocky and everything, of people, like almost two-dimensional 3D people. And then one guy decided that he was given the class for cyber awareness. And instead of using this girl's face, he superimposed Hillary Clinton's face on it. Because, wait a second, didn't Hillary Clinton put an actual civilian server? And she was routing military, government, the State Department secrets and everything through that? Or did we just forget that?
In her bathroom.
Yeah, so Signal is much worse than that, and destroying, like you said, public records, right? She destroyed those phones were funded by the U.S. government, right? That was all funding. She can't show receipts that she paid for that stuff. It was all funded. The services were funded by the U.S. government. She had no right to destroy it. It's U.S. government property, but she did. So is there anything out on that? No. Like I said, this is a very old problem. It came around with technology. And they need not just give training. They're like, how do you mitigate a risk, right? So that's another thing in the military, risk management. So whenever you do something, where someone may or may not get hurt, training things, you do a risk management thing, and you say, okay, this is a risk of serious death. How do we mitigate it, right? Like, okay, you're jumping out of an airplane. Well, there's a risk of serious death. How do you mitigate it? Well, you put them in parachutes. Okay, that's one little bit of mitigation. Then everything goes down until you get the safety within acceptable risks, because you shouldn't be risk adherent. But when you have this leak of information, which is risky, how do you mitigate that leak? Training alone doesn't do it. You're right. Supervision has to do it. Has there been supervision on this? I don't think there's been enough, all right? Because one, it's not sexy, right? I said getting a hot female spy, hot female 20 honeypot Russian spy. Oh, that's sexy. Getting some colonel who decides that he can't walk to the shredder, so he throws some classified garbage into the garbage can to be taken out with normal garbage, right? That's not sexy. But that's plugging a leak. That's mitigating the leaks, right? So you need supervision on that. The other mitigation Though the other way to mitigate, you got training and the supervision, but also limiting the technology that people can use in classified spots, you know, and almost on a military base. It's very hard to do. The beginning of the Russian-Ukrainian war, the Russians knocked out battalions of Ukrainians because they were all using cell phones, and they just targeted their cell phones, and that was the end of them. We got two minutes left on this. So, Paul.
Yeah.
Any final words?
You know, we need to be more cognizant of what we're doing. You know, I used to regulate charities, and I spent about 5 years of my life doing that, and I've prosecuted people, stuff like that. We need to get back to regulation. We need to find out what these things exactly do, and we need to prevent stuff like this because, you know, who knows, like you said, who knows who's getting this money? I mean, you know, their mission is to enable free open source and a non-for-profit. You know, that all sounds good, you know, but free open source for what? You know, anarchists want a free open source to where they can, you know, schedule their what do you call them, wildings or meetings or meetups, and we've given them that, and now we've put our imprimatur on it by making our military meet through that, and I think that is,
well, we're not making them. We're not making them. We are not.
We're allowing it.
We're and we really don't allow it. There are courses that tell you not to do that stuff. There are phishing courses. They tell you not to do it. We're not making them. We're not really allowing it. We don't condone it. We just don't have oversight. We're like a bunch of Robert Hansons out there paid by the adversary not to have oversight, which he's supposed to do, not to do his job. You're paying the sheepdog not to do his job.
Right.
All right. So see you next week.
Next week.